guys, welcome to episode 4 of One Deck, One Month for Mekk Nights. As you guys might have heard, unfortunately, my locals did have to shut down tournaments for the foreseeable future because of a rise of, cases and the whole pandemic and everything. Obviously wanted to follow the state orders and take the best safety precautions. So locals will be online for the time being. I don't know if I'm going to do this series as a whole going forward online. I just really wanted to finish out Mekk Nights. I didn't want to leave it on, week 3. So I'm actually sitting down right now in my locals Discord, and we're about to get started here in round 1. We are on Mekk Nights, obviously. I did upload a deck profile for that list. It is up here in the top right if you want to check it out. I think the only changes I made is I actually cut Lightning Storms for Raigeki and Harpy's Feather Duster. That was the only change that I made, and that is the list we're on tonight. And we're going to go through all of our matches. I don't know how much vlog type stuff is going to be in this one because it is just online locals. It could be 1 to 2 to 3 months. I'm not sure. It's anybody's guess at this point. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into our first round here in just a moment. And guys, I gotta say real quick, it is so much fun being in the Discord chat with everybody from locals, especially people who maybe have not been able to make it so frequently. It's just great to talk with everybody. We're all just joking around, throwing my stupid Discord emotes in the chat, just waiting to start. It's a lot of fun. I gotta admit, it's a lot funner than I thought it was going to be. Alright, so our round 1 opponent was playing a very interesting deck. You might just be seeing Adamancipator here, which, isn't super surprising, but he was actually incorporating a Prank Kids engine into this deck, which, to my surprise, seemed to work very, very well, using the Thunder Prank Kids to fuel Anaconda to make Battle Butler, and using the Rock Prank Kids for synergy with the Adamancipator engine. Alright, so here we are on the start of my turn, starting things off with that Extravagance. Came in very clutch, worked well throughout the entire night, and so did Book of Moon. That right there, turning off that Battle Butler was one of the first examples of how clutch Book of Moon really was. But as you can see, I kind of did throw a little bit here right at the start. I don't know why I didn't just use Forbidden Droplets to deal with both those Quackimiru Guardians. It is what it is. These things do happen sometimes. So I do go into the battle phase to clear the other one, and then I proceed to start main phase 2 off with that Memory. Gonna go for Purple Nightfall. Purple Nightfall is going to tag out for Blue Sky. We're going to go ahead and summon that in that column that he's already given us. And Blue Sky is going to go ahead and resolve for 2, going to add Red Moon and Yellow Star. Now, we don't have a World Legacy monster in our graveyard. Obviously, that was the job that Girsu was supposed to fulfill. But again, our Girsu never got to resolve. So here, ideally, I'd be setting... in this instance, I guess it doesn't change too much. I would still be setting Secret since we did hard open the Succession. But we could still Succession back the Gauntlet to get another card like Memory to our hand at this point. And we'd be a little farther ahead just because the play I'm making now is because I don't have a copy of Memory because I already had to use it. I'm making a Morning Star here to basically go get that. I was going to try to make Avermax, but that would have required me committing Red Moon to the field. And obviously need to keep that in hand to have as discard fodder for Morning Star. He's going to go ahead and chain the Raptite in response to Lib, because it obviously does not target, so he is currently in a use it or lose it situation. But obviously go ahead and spin back the bigger threat in the situation, which is that face down defense position Battle Butler. So that pretty much does it for my turn. I keep the 1 droplet in my hand as discard fodder for the other one, and to make matters worse in the end phase, he's got a Nibiru for us. Luckily, it's only for 1 on our side of the field. It's not like he wiped a huge field from us. But our back row that we have is really what's the most important. I find Mekk Knight in most cases to be kind of Nibiru proof, because by the time that they can Nibiru you, you've pretty much already have gotten a lot of advantage in terms of your World Legacy spells and traps, which are obviously what I think make Mekk Knight a very effective deck, since they have basically one-sided skill drains, Imperial Orders, and Royal Decrees. So he goes ahead and fires off this Analyzer, I believe, and that does miss. And he's able to go into the battle phase here swing in for the 1500. And I believe that might do it for his turn. But we do have, again, like I said, quite a hefty back row lineup here. And since he doesn't have anything else, end phase, I'm going to go ahead and fire off this memory for another purple to grab Girsu. And now we don't have just one purple coming back in the standby phase. We have two. And also important thing to note here is Dueling Book decided it would do what it does best right now, and that is to lag like crazy. So that start turn button is just going to go ahead and flash like it's nobody's else's business, and I basically just have to manually draw a card for my next turn. So after enough waiting, I eventually do draw for turn, and I do pick up a copy of Blue Sky, which is pretty welcome, just because, again, more searches, more bodies on board, a better chance of us for being able to secure a game. So we start things off by normal summoning Girsu, sending off that World Legacy World Armor, special summoning Blue Sky, and I do believe I searched that copy of green because I can use that to sort of recycle some resources in the grave. We go ahead and link into our last copy of Lib. Again, Extravagance treated us pretty well here. We use it to set Whispers from the deck, so now we can turn off spells as well. We summon green in that same column as the Analyzer. Again, easy monster to run over, and basically easy free recursion for us at this point if we don't secure a game. And then we're going to use the Gauntlet to search key, and we're going to go ahead and play that to go ahead and add back the Indigo. And at this point, it might seem like I'm overextending, but I just want to make sure I can absolutely secure a game. So obviously with the phase selector being broken, I declare to my opponent over voice chat that I'm going to try to enter the battle phase. And there's the second Nibiru. Yeah, feels Goodman. I do chain one of my purple Nightfalls in response, so I don't have, no plays left over. We'll at least have purple coming back, and we at least have Girsu. So I just set my other droplet and pass my turn. So Nibiru is just, I don't know. I tend to tunnel vision in some points, and that was one of those instances. And sometimes I just don't think about every single hand trap option that there could be. That just so happened to be one of them. He tries to start a turn with another Analyzer, and luckily the Secrets play with Indigo is enough to shut him down. So I go ahead and side deck here. I think I side to go first. I think I end up putting an artifact package in, maybe alongside of Summon Limit, but it might just be artifacts with Trap Trick here. I think those are the only things that I side in, so we're going to go ahead and get started here with game 2. So as I previously mentioned, I did side to go first, but to my surprise, our opponent still wanted to go first, thus making us go second. And, lo and behold, he does have full combo once again. The Prank Kids engine and Adamantipator engine sort of combining together much better than I ever really thought they would, but I guess they have, a Thunder Prank Kids, which has some synergy with the Anaconda, and obviously there is a Rock Prank Kids as well to fit with all the Adamantipator cards. So yeah, pretty much ending on an identical board here. Now, luckily for us, this time we did open up Extravagance once more, so nothing really feels better than starting your turn with a nice little draw too. And like I've said, in game 1, the Extravagance didn't really screw us over. So we go ahead and banish 6 here, and our opponent lets it go through. And he's already given us 2 columns to work with. Not really, I don't think there's anything he could really have done about that. Based on the nature of his deck, the equip from Borreload Savage and then Prank Kids Prank. So we try to resolve blue for 2. He negates with a Kakimiro Guardian, and obviously that's something he doesn't want to go through, so gonna get that off the field. Technically, he could have negated with the Savage, so that would have denied me 1 extra column to work with. I think maybe in hindsight that would have been a little bit of a better play, but purple goes through here actually, and I go ahead and grab the Girsu. The send effect is going to be negated. Now I'm going to activate the other effect of Girsu to summon tokens, making sure I put the other token underneath his Anaconda to secure yet another sort of free column for us to work with. I go right into Morningstar here instead of going for Lib, obviously, since we haven't gotten a World Legacy monster engrave. we're going to pitch the Indigo, and we're going to add the Secret. Now, I summon this World Legacy World Crown from my hand. This was obviously one of the first locals that I was playing this card in the deck, and this is a good example of how decent I think this card can be in here. So I obviously have Red Moon as well. So I'm trying to force out this Battle Butler. It is such an impressive card, especially with having the Meow in his graveyard. So I summon the Red Moon. He chains, the effect to wipe. I attempt to negate with the World Crown. He attempts to blow up again, and obviously that goes through. So maybe I could have kept the World Crown on my field. I think that would have probably been a better use of resources looking back, but again, that's why we watch these feature matches back. That probably would have been, that way I could have saved it possibly for the Borreload Savage for next turn, and maybe just held it in my hand. But then again, I probably wouldn't have been able to get it out onto the field after my board. I would have gotten clear if I would have just started and threatened with the Red Moon immediately. So he's going to go ahead and start his turn with some Adamancer plays from his Raptite, and I'm really just left now with my Green Moon and a few traps. There's the trap trick, obviously, that I sided in. I'm like, I'll just go for Sanctum here to stop him from going any further, but then I'm like, oh, he's still got this Borreload Savage Dragon on his field, so obviously he can just negate the effect of Scythe, so he can keep going. But at bare minimum, that will at least force off that last negate from his Borreload Savage Dragon. He's going to go ahead and resolve the Analyzer. That grabs him another Guardian here. And at this point, things are starting to look a little bit downhill. He's going to go ahead and use Thunder Dragon Fusion to add Fansies. And basically, I think I do concede here pretty shortly. Yeah, once the Dragite comes out, because that's just going to be a potential compulse everything that I've ever owned. So moving to the side deck here, I thought I was going to decide to go second again, like putting back basically all my main deck cards, but I decided last minute that I would just put more going first cards and leaving the artifact package in, and also leaving in summon limit. Unfortunately, I did not hard draw that Girsu, like, that's what we have to do with Mekk Knights. I didn't hard draw it, but I did draw summon limit, Book of Moon, and Imperm, so feeling fantastic about that. He starts with the Doki Doki, and I was debating on whether or not I should use the summon limit immediately or wait, but I just decided to use it right away. So basically his last summon will pretty much come from this Doki Doki here. He's going to be able to discard the, I actually forget the name of the Rock Prank Kids. I'm sure it'll come to me at some point, but he's basically just going to summon out the Guardian and swing in for 1900 and I believe 500 from that Doki Doki. And this is exactly the position that I wanted to be in, was basically just Purple Nightfall with just Morningstar, right? Simplified game state with the summon limit up. That's all we really need to thrive with Mekk Knights, is, purple coming back every turn. It doesn't even count as a summon either, so we can sort of basically incrementally build our field turn after turn with Purple Nightfall coming back. So to me, it felt like a pretty good strategy. So we're going to go ahead and clear the Guardian with the purple, summon out blue, search Girsu for next turn. And again, we can sort of just continue to snowball that advantage until there's a Harpy's Feather Duster. Feels Goodman. I chain everything here in response. Obviously, I used the Book of Moon. I should have impermed the Doki Doki. I don't know why I didn't. I kind of immediately regretted it because I realized after the fact that he could just flip it right back up. And obviously, I'm going to use memory to go ahead and grab another purple from the deck just for more potential searches. But long story short, my opponent has full combo because Halka Fibrax gets to resolve, and that card's fair and balanced. And we can just go ahead and see that play out in real fast time. So in round 2, I was not happy to see that I was going to be playing against Prank Kids yet again. I mean, I'm not surprised that this deck is becoming more popular. The Link 1, in my opinion, really did help this deck out a lot. I only wish that Mekk Knights would have gotten the same treatment in terms of getting a Link 1, but hey, a guy can dream. Maybe that will happen at some point in the future. Now, this build of Prank Kids is not the same as the last build we played against. This is much more of a pure Prank Kids deck. Obviously, there is no Adamantipator engine. And Harpy's Feather Duster, obviously, it did blow us out in the last round in the last game. But here it was nice to see that the Harpy's Feather Duster was on our side. So we pick up yellow for turn. Now, I was kind of debating, you know, should I start with Harpy's Feather Duster or should I start with Blue Sky? But it was very enticing to see if I could go ahead and at least try to resolve Blue Sky 4-2. He does chain the Bow Wow to recycle some cards back to his hand. So on resolution, we will actually only be able to get to search one card off of Blue Sky. But, you know, one is essentially enough here if it's going to be, you know, Purple Nightfall. So afterwards, I try to fire off that Harpy's Feather Duster, and lo and behold, there is the Pandemonium, and that's going to basically create what will be the most problematic card for us to deal with, and that is the Battle Butler. Basically, double Raigeki, obviously with the Meow Mew in the graveyard, going to make it live a second time at some point during our turn. So right now, getting that card off the field is sort of our main priority. Luckily, we're able to clear off the rest of his back row. Obviously, once this whole massive chain link finishes up on his end, summoning out the Roxy's and the Dropsies and the Lampsies. Yes, I'm finally remembering their names now. So there goes the rest of his back row. A Pot of Avarice along with it. Low-key, actually, not a bad hit there. Him resolving a Pot of Avarice next turn probably would have been pretty detrimental for us. So I go ahead and set the memory there. And right here, I'm like, do I want to commit purple to the board? Not really, because if I do, he's just going to, you know, when I activate purple, which is what he's going to be waiting for me to do, he's just going to chain the Battle Butler. So I start with a more conservative play. I'm like, I'm just going to go for Morningstar, see what he does here. You know, we're trying to, you know, resolve a search effect here. You know, we're discarding cards, so maybe he wants to make us go super minus. So we're still able to get to memory here, which is great. But I summon out purple here. And I'm sort of debating, what do I do now? Do I try to go into the battle phase? Obviously, Battle Butler is 3K, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. But I decided to set the memory. You know, at a bare minimum, I at least have the memory and the secret set. I think I was attempting to maybe go into the battle phase. And then he decided to wipe the field yet again with the Battle Butler, which is actually kind of nice because that did clear up my field to be able to resolve the gear suit that we searched off of purple. We obviously use that in response to Battle Butler. But, you know, trying to enter the battle phase again, or not even trying to enter the battle phase, just trying to resolve the gear suit, he has, you know, the Nibiru, which is super unlucky. So having to play through essentially 3 board wipes that turn. I mean, hindsight, I don't really think there's a whole lot we could have done about it to play through that differently. But on the bright side, we do at least still have memory and secret set. But unfortunately, you know, on-field monster negation isn't so good against Prank Kids. Obviously, majority of their effects, pretty much all of their effects, activate in the graveyard. So, you know, at least we were able to get World Legacy World Armor in the graveyard. So, any future plays we make with Lib, we will be able to, you know, resolve the succession that will be, you know, ultimately set off of Lib. So he tries to resolve the Parallel Exceed here. I'm desperately not wanting this to go through because otherwise it's just free link fodder for him. You know, free access code talkers or Boral Swords, whatever it may be. So we negate that with the Indigo. And then he's trying to resolve the Cockadoodle-Doo to search another Prank Kid spell or trap. We're going to go ahead and negate that with Indigo Eclipse as well. And he's still going to be able to resolve the Roxy's in the graveyard. Obviously banishing one from hand to draw to summon. I mean, I'm always kind of blown away by the cost of some of these cards. Like, banish a card to draw, and then you also just get to summon another monster for free from deck. Like, that's not really a bad cost to pay. You know, see a new card from your deck, and then also just summon another card from deck as well. Pretty nice. So, he tries to go into Unicorn here, trying to clear the secret. we have memory again, and luckily for a potential quad monster negate with the double indigos, and we're able to at least keep that secret on the board to try to at least control the game here. Unfortunately, we don't have the missing piece of this puzzle, and that is Morningstar, so we're not safe in the battle phase. That's where the biggest issue comes from. That's where this whole sort of Mekk Knight lock falls apart, because he is able to run over the other indigo that hasn't had a chance to use its effect yet. So in main phase 2, whatever he goes into in the extra monster zone will basically be able to freely activate uninterrupted, which I think he actually does end up going into an access code and clearing the rest of our field. So fast forward, after our field gets completely obliterated by access code, we top deck in Nibiru, standby phase, purple comes back. Now I do declare in voice chat here at this point that I'm going to main phase 1 to use the purple effect, and he has effect Valor. Hindsight's 2020, I should have maybe just used it in the standby phase to play around effect Valor, because you can only effect Valor in the main phase. But I'll be totally honest, I was not thinking about Valor, so I totally played into it 100%. That's just on me. And next turn, he just blows our back out with access code, and we head into game 2. Alright, so as you can see here, we did get to go second in game 2. I did not side because I wanted to keep my deck how it was. It is built for going second, so no need to really side anything. His turn wasn't the best, obviously reasoning for Nibiru and passing. So we start things off with the memory for purple. He actually has Lancia, which sucks super, super hard. Was not expecting the Lancia. I don't think there was really anything I could have done to play around it. So I decide to commit green to the field to go ahead and link for Morningstar, and he just has another effect Valor. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I got a little greedy there. Maybe I didn't need to commit that much to the play. Effect Valor was just super, super clutch for him. And then during his turn, he does have the Godarla for our Morningstar. I mean, I still have Imperm and a Droplet as well, so we're not completely defenseless here. But obviously, Kaiju in pretty much any situation will always suck. So you're going to go ahead and resolve the Fansies here, summon out Dropsies, and he's going to go ahead and go for a Link 2 with the Meow Mew into a copy of the Cockadoodle-Doo. And I'm going to Imperm that, as you would expect. And then, boom, he's got a red reboot for us. So I decide to set a secret from the deck. So, you know, right now it's sort of becoming more and more clear as to why his opening, you know, hand played out the way that it did, because it was filled with a bunch of not so good cards, at least to start his turn. Obviously, red reboot, fantastic for him in this situation, but not really so much to secure those prank kid plays, at least at the start of your turn. So he was able to search Pandemonium, and he's going to go ahead and add back some cards here. And then he's going to go ahead and play Pandemonium and go ahead and Fusion for what I believe is the Battle Butler. If I'm not mistaken, Prank Kids have a Harpy's Feather Duster Fusion. Again, I could be mistaken, but I was kind of maybe expecting that, since he had just locked down all of our back row, and he was just going to go ahead and just wipe them out completely. But Battle Butler is still an extremely oppressive card, and a deck like Mekk Knight that requires a pretty much... you know, requires monster presence to be able to make plays. Cards like Blue Sky and Purple Nightfall, very fragile to cards like Battle Butler. And we top deck Succession, so good here. So we attempt to Imperm the Butler. That does go through. We go ahead and use Secret here to revive Purple. Again, this is really my only way out of this mess. I was going to go for Girsu right off the rip since we don't have any monsters, but I just wanted to get blue on board to get that extra body to work with, even if it meant we were going to lose the token. So we summon Girsu, send that World Legacy World Armor. We're starting to be able to make a bit of a comeback here. We already have Succession in hand, so we don't need to set it. We'll just set another memory for next turn. we're going to go ahead and play Succession to bring back Armor. And Armor is going to go ahead and net us a search of another World Legacy card. So we're going to add another copy of Memory here. And as you can see, I also have another copy of Succession set as well. So right now, the only thing I need to get rid of is the Battle Butler. I just need to get this card off the field because next turn it's going to be kind of problematic. So I use Memory here to summon out Indigo just to get it in the grave and go for Morningstar for no effect and just go for Avermax. Use Lib, shuffle back the Butler, get it off the board, get it out of my sight. That card is going to be, like I said, problematic for us and has been very, very problematic in the past. So here I didn't attack over the Nibiru primarily because I did not want him to have an instant Link 1 play at the start of his turn to be able to trigger the Roxys in the graveyard. Yes, I could have knocked him down to 1,000, but I also wasn't going to be able to kill him, if I did that. So I think clearing that Prank Kids monster off the field was probably the best bet. Now, unfortunately for me, he's still top decked the Lampsies, and he's able to go for the Meow Mew and summon out a Fansies. So like his engine is still able to keep going here regardless of what I would have done. And then he's just going to sort of go off and do more Prank Kids things. But I don't think he's actually quite able to get through our defenses. We still have that Memory set. That is going to summon out Indigo, and that's going to block that Cock-a-doodle-doo from being able to activate or resolve, keeping him from getting a card like Pandemonium or Place or Prank. He will still be able to dump Pandemonium to the graveyard, but I don't think that's as good as obviously getting it directly to the hand. He'll summon out Dropsies, and feeling okay with the board that we have. I actually wasn't really at this point expecting to make the comeback that we did here, all off of just simply one secret, bringing back a Purple Nightfall. He tries to attack into the Indigo. He can't do that, obviously, because of Avermax, and I think that pretty much rounds it up for game 2. Purple comes back here, and we'll just go ahead and take it to game 3. So here we are in the all-important Game 3 situation, and as you might expect, our opponent does make us go first. We don't have the most extravagant opening. We don't see Girsu, because, why would I ever draw Girsu when I have to go first? Always drawing that double Purple Nightfall, though, and our opponent starts with the Red Eyes Fusion and a set 1, and I try to use Trap Trick here. He has Lancia. He can't actually use it, so I do catch him on that, because you can only use Lancia during your opponent's turn and not your own. So I'm still able to get access to impermanence. It's a little bittersweet, though, because I know Dragoon is, it can't be targeted. I was kind of thinking about maybe going for Sanctum for Lancia, or for Scythe, rather, but, he's already gone into the extra deck. Maybe if I would have shotgunned it in the standby phase, which I was worried about doing because that comes with its own risks of him being able to imperm the Scythe or potentially even just Ash the Sanctum. So I decided to let him commit to the field, but maybe I was just a little too early with it, or late with it rather, so perhaps a little bit of my own fault there. I try to resolve Girsu. He has Effect Veiler, so I'm just going to summon the Indigo, go for the Galatea, and go for the Dingirsu, because we need to get this, this Dragoon off the field. So there's the one negate gone. At this point, I just need to try to get into Lib. So we set Trap Trick here, and I summon Purple, and yep, there's the Lancia, obviously, on the summon that he tried to use turn 1, but now, obviously, still having it to be able to use here. And I don't have any World Legacy cards in my graveyard currently, so I can't get to Lib, and I do have a World Legacy card in my grave at this point, but I don't think, I don't think I have a way to link off the Lib at this point. Obviously, we've summoned the Purple, and he has Skill Drain to make matters better, so Skill Drain is up alongside of his Dragoon, and this is already just a really bad scenario we do kind of just pass back and forth until like one sort of critical moment happens, and it ended up pretty much being the deciding factor for this entire match. So this is that particular moment, and there's actually a pretty interesting ruling thing that comes up here. So I attempt to use Imperm that I had gotten off my trap trick a few turns back to be able to turn off the skill drain, but obviously that would require me being able to negate this Dragoon, but you can't negate something that already is negated, especially with a card like Imperm. So ultimately, my one attempt to try to play out of this very, sticky situation, I couldn't even have done. But he did have the Lance, so there's that. Like, he did have the, 100% hard counter to it anyways. So with Skill Drain, in my mind, technically being turned off, I tried to use purple, but he has the Ghost Ogre for it. So regardless, it just did not matter. My man got the game outright. No questions asked. So as you can see here in round 3, I was lucky enough to get to play against my favorite deck, that's Invoke Dogmatica. But here, again, as you can see, Harpy's Feather Duster being loyal to me after that unfortunate incident in round 1. And we also open up Pot of Extravagance too. He does let that go through. We do actually end up banishing all of our Morning Stars, so it was very interesting to see how this game would play out. But we do have the infamous 2-card combo, Book of Moon and Harpy's Feather Duster. I know Dogmatica Punishment can be extremely punishing, no pun intended, against Mekk Knight, so I just burned the Duster right then and there. But very devastating, as I call it, 2-card combo with our Mekk Knight list there. Book of Moon into Harpy's Feather Duster, and I'll let you guys in on something. That isn't the first time you'll see that little 2-card combo happen for the remainder of this tournament. So we go into Lib here after our Girsu managed to successfully resolve, which, sometimes seems like a rare thing that'll happen. But we do have the token on the side of the field, and we're going to go ahead and set one from the deck. And I do think I go for the Succession here, since we have the World Legacy World Armor in the graveyard. And I think my opponent might have had a potential response here. So just waiting to see what he does there. And he does have actually the Ghost Ogre, which is kind of unfortunate. So we do still get to set from deck. And I was like, do I switch up the targets at this point, since I do not have that link arrow readily accessible to me? But I still decide to go for Succession, because I think at this point I can still get into Morningstar, because we're going to be able to attempt to resolve purple. We haven't resolved blue yet. I'm a little relieved here also to see that he's burned Ghost Ogre, and our purple isn't going to have to suffer that terrible fate. So we add that blue sky to the hand. We're going to go ahead and summon that blue sky, and we're going to try to resolve its effect. And he has Ash, unfortunately, so that really sucks. So we're going to have to set Secret now to commit to another column. And like I said earlier, we are out of Morning Stars thanks to Extravagance, but that doesn't mean we still can't try to establish a somewhat decent board. So we go ahead and link into another copy of Lib, and we're going to Succession back Girsu, and we're still going to be able to clear his entire field because we're going to go ahead and link into Galatea with Lib and Girsu, shuffle back his Mekaba, and then we're also going to be able to summon out Dingirsu, which is going to send off that token that he has, and we're going to be able to get in for 2,600 direct. So not so bad of a turn there for not having any Morning Stars to work with. And the nice thing about having Ding is if he does have a card like Duster or cards like Entis, you know, we'll be able to protect our precious back row, especially cards like World Legacy Secret, and how clutch it's going to be able to negate this good old boy Alistair here. So you're going to summon it, attempt to activate effect. Unfortunately, we do not have access to the Indigo Eclipse here, because we weren't really able to get to a memory very effectively that last turn. So he does scoop right then and there, and we're going to head into game 2. As you can see, I'm kind of preparing to maybe go first here against this deck. So I'm putting in the full artifact package, putting in the trap tricks, making sure the Lancia is in as well. And, you know, we put those cards in, and we're pretty much all ready to go. So as you can see, we didn't go first. So again, thrown off in the side decking department once again. Luckily, we did open up Harpy's Feather Duster yet again. Like I said, this card was being very loyal to us after it completely demolished us round 1. And then we resolve Extravagance. He does have Droll, but we do find that 2-card combo in a Book of Moon and Harpy's Feather Duster. So here, being under Droll obviously does hurt quite a bit, but I think we've opened some of the better cards that we could possibly open under Droll, and, you know, the Harpy's Feather Duster is going to knock off a punishment as well as an impermanence. So here, I'm thinking, you know, do I commit a Mekk Knight play, or do I just sort of leave my memory and secret on the field to try to negate cards? But, like, I really, if I can help it, don't want to leave his Mekaba on the field, because the next turn he can just basically negate at will whatever play he wants to if he has access to a spell. And obviously with a card like Alistair, he can get very easy access to spells and things of that nature. So I decided to just summon out the Red Moon, leave it in the column that Mekaba's in, and then in the standby phase I shotgun the memory, because I want to be able to get purple out in the field before he can have a chance to flip up his Mekaba and potentially be able to negate the purple. So, I mean, I don't think that was a terrible play. We do safely get Girsu to our hand, but I think at the same time, it would have also been smart to just hold on to the memory to be able to get access to a card like Indigo to have multiple monster negates. So I was thinking, like, you know, maybe that would have been a better play, because right now we actually don't have any Mekk Knights in our graveyard. I felt, you know, safe having the Red Moon already in the same column as Mekaba. So if we did have memory activate, he would chain Mekaba to potentially negate if he had a spell in his hand, which, you know, he did have Terraforming for Meltdown. So, you know, maybe it is good that we did that, but we could have chained the secret as the last thing in the chain. Obviously Red Moon already being there, we could have potentially just negated the Mekaba before he would have had a chance to negate our memory anyways. So, but, you know, hindsight's 2020. I think it was an okay play still, going for the play that I did. But now we're gonna fast forward a little bit till it is our turn, and he actually does have a fleur-de-lis here as well. So now at this point, he has 2 Mekabas, which kind of hurt, but, you know, we still have our purple coming back in the standby phase, which is great. And now we just openly flip up secret. So the 1 Mekaba at this point is completely turned off, and we now have the capability to turn off the second one just by summoning that blue sky into that column that we already have established. So both of our Mekk Knights right now can go through freely. We don't have to worry about our purple getting negated either, because luckily it does target for cost and it doesn't banish for cost. Same thing with our Girsu here. That's able to freely resolve also. So right now I decide to use the purple because I'm trying to get this column open to be able to get Indigo onto the field before I go ahead and go into like an extra deck play. So we have the World Legacy World Armor in the graveyard. And here I have a few options. I can either go for Galatea or I can go for Lib. I decided to go for Lib The nice thing about Lib is the effect doesn't have to activate on summon, so I don't have to worry about not having the Mekk Knights out immediately once the effect tries to activate. So just to be safe, I summon out both the remaining Mekk Knights that I have in my hand, indigo and green included, before I attempt to use the effect of Lib. And I'm looking at Succession here as well because I do have the Gauntlet Engrave. The unfortunate thing is I have my one Link Arrow spot being clogged up by having a Mekk Knight, and Dueling Book is being a bit laggy here as well, unfortunately. But again, I think I probably could have just summoned the Lib in the other extra monster zone and still would have been able to summon these two Mekk Knights and also openly use my Succession. So I think that was a little bit of a tech play error now that I look at it. But I can still freely link off the Lib and the green for something like Morningstar or, something like Morningstar here, and have the indigo be able to move over to negate anything if I need to. But I don't even have a card to discard, so it really doesn't matter. And as you can see here, actually, we will have something for him to force a negate, and that is the Lib Effect Engrave, which I think he does attempt to negate here, which is fine because obviously the one Mekaba in the middle, there is no Mekk Knight in the column to contest it, but we can chain purple, and purple will attempt to activate Tarani itself. Then it'll move over to be able to negate it, and he couldn't negate with the other Mekaba because obviously that indigo was still in the same column as it. So now, with an extra monster zone freed up, or Link Arrow space freed up, we can use Succession, bring back World Armor, and we can go ahead and grab basically the last piece of the puzzle here, which is memory. So during the next turn, we can freely summon out Mekk Knights to be able to negate monster effects at will. And we're just going to make a second Morningstar here and go in for an Avermax. And we're going to go into the battle phase. I see an Alistair is out of his hand, so I'm not really too worried about him having the damage calc shenanigans. And we'll just run that over for 3k. And we're going to set a bunch of cards and pass, setting that Artifact Scythe included, just because if he does see something like Nadir Servant, he might be tempted to pop one of our back rows with Entis. I mean, it probably would just be Secret is what he would pop, but, you never know. We might as well just set it just in case that opportunity can arise. So he's going to resolve Meltdown, add Alistair, normal summon it, and when he tries to activate the effect, we're obviously going to chain Mekaba and go ahead and negate that Alistair. Now, at this point, he's going to have a very hard time trying to deal with the board that we have. He debated going into the extra deck for a card like BLS, but ultimately he left his field as is and was actually able to make a bit of a decent comeback in the following turns, to my surprise. So yeah, as you can see, after a critical Ghost Ogre and a very good Pot of Desires, Fleur-de-Lis is actually able to help steal the game there, and we do have to move to Game 3, where I think I just opt to go second yet again. Preparing for the worst, I was expecting a very strong Dogmatica board, but luckily it was just Ecclesia with 2 set pass, and there it is, the 2-card combo yet again. Book Duster. Again, Duster being so incredibly loyal. I've said it 1,000 times at this point, but it was just so loyal. I literally could not believe it. Book of Moon, I decided to use there just to be able to turn off a potential Fleur-de-Lis at some point if we do go into the extra deck, because if he does have a Fleur-de-Lis and he has it on something like a Morningstar or Lib, it could prove to be very, very bad for our turn. Then again, he does have Drone Lock, which kind of sucks. So I'm forced to just summon out this blue and swing over the Ecclesia, setting one and passing. As you can see, I have a Raigeki in my hand as well. And as you guys have seen the new Mekk Knight deck profile, I was playing Lightning Storms, but for this tournament, decided to change them out for just Raigeki and Duster, and I'm actually just kind of glad that I did, because I find Raigeki and Duster just to be better cards overall, especially if I was going to run just 2 Lightning Storms. So, standby phase, Purple Nightfall comes back. Again, not a super productive turn for him, thankfully. The blue sky is going to hit over the Ecclesia for 500, and then purple's going to get in for a nice 25. We're going to go main phase 2, and I think I attempt to go for the purple here, and unfortunately he does have Dogmatic of Punishment. He's only going to send 1 Titaniclad this time around, so we don't lose too much. So we just turn our... Well, I was going to turn him to defense, but we already had a battle phase, so just leaving our field as is, not wanting to commit anything else. End phase, Ecclesia gets summoned to his board, adds Maximus, and once I see the Maximus, I start getting kind of scared, because that could potentially mean double Entis hitting the board and wiping out a lot of our good cards like Secret, but luckily we have Secret for purple, and just getting purple out off of that is so huge, because not only can we stop that Maximus, but we can get a search for next turn. I had Girsu, and unfortunately we draw another Girsu for turn, and I normal Girsu, he has Ash. I set that Raigeki, put everything into attack, flip up that Raigeki, and that's just going to be game right then and there. Raigeki coming in so incredibly clutch to steal that game. All right, so in round 4, we are desperately trying to break even here, and it's a little bit surprising to see that we are playing against Zodiac. I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to play against this deck at all, because again, I've talked about it several times in the past how oppressive Zeus is, but he's not going for the Zeus play here. Turn 1, obviously trying to go for Mega Clops, but luckily that Nibiru comes in more than clutch here. So I give him the token. Obviously, he's going to set a few back row and pass. I've got triple Imperm in my hand, right? Of course, wouldn't be, a tournament, or at least one of my tournament experiences without some severe brick hand like that. Ash Blossom comes down on the blue sky. We tried to resolve Morningstar, discarding the Gauntlet for cost. He's got Solemn Strike. Not much else we can do there but pass it over to him. He starts with Ram, goes into Borbo, and swings in there directly, obviously, but that's going to allow him access to that of Zeus, going to Drill Driver Vespinato, and then all the way up into Zeus. So he's got plenty of materials under it. But here's Book of Moon coming in so incredibly clutch. It's going to basically allow us to out this Zeus, but I'm not going to play it yet because we don't have anything to follow up on. So here's something happens. I chain Imperm to his Zeus, and I thought he was just going to activate it again, because that's how I'm so used to, it being played against me. So some things kind of got lost in translation, but I only wanted to fire off the second Imperm if he was going to chain again. So I set back the Imperm there. We settle everything, and the game continues on. Zeus still chilling there with, the 2 materials set. I mean, regardless, it doesn't matter. I had 3 Imperm anyway, so this Zeus definitely was not resolving. So we're just going to fast forward here until the rest of this game sort of plays out. So basically at this point you can see, yeah, there's not much we can do about that. I was just drawing terrible card turn after turn. So I decide to pretty much leave the main deck as is here, because I do want to go second again, and I do not really have any cards aside for going second. Nibiru is already great enough as is, and of course so is the Harpy's Feather Duster. So he ends his turn with nothing super extravagant. Speaking of extravagance, there it is. But, just Dryden with a few set back row. We do have Book of Moon. Again, it's the classic 2-card combo that we talked about in round 3. Book of Moon, Harpy's Feather Duster. Book's going to take care of that, Dryden. And it's still importantly going to, remain on the field for us to work with. That's why I really do like Book of Moon, because it's kind of like Dark Ruler, but, a little bit different. It's great for stopping things like normal summons, especially against this matchup. The monster still stays there on the field for us to, make columns with, but the threat in of itself is neutralized. So right now we're just going through classic Mekk Knight plays using World Armor to get direct access to memory there instead of having to set it off of lib. Again, one of the reasons why I do ultimately like having World Legacy World Armor in the deck, because it does give you that unique access to add any World Legacy spell or trap out of your deck, much like a Morning Star. So it's very nice in that aspect. So we do make the Avermax. We pretty much clear his board and has to have what is the most clutch Lightning Storm here. Lightning Storm for 3. Really wish at this point I had a secret at this, or a Whispers rather, to be able to turn that Lightning Storm off, but can't always be that lucky. He does start with the Thoroughblade, goes into the Borbo. He's kind of wondering how he's going to deal with this Avermax, but of course Zeus is going to deal with it because he can go ahead and swing in directly with Borbo, go in for Mortar, into Chakanine, into Drident, into Vespinato, into Zeus, right? So fair and balanced. Only if I had a Nibiru there. But he goes ahead and sends off the Avermax, but it does come with a cost, obviously. I do send away that Zeus back into his extra deck, and purples are coming back. Girsu gets normal summoned. So it was kind of a very tough split decision for our opponent here. Yes, Lightning Storm was a really good top deck looking back, but he either loses to the backer ultimately, or he has a very, very hard time outing Avermax. So as you can see, we swung in for about 6,800 damage. I don't think it actually had a chance to do more damage there. Yeah, unless I was playing Borosword, which I was not, obviously, with Extravagance. So I decided to summon the green here just to have another Mekk Knight on board, to have in a column to potentially be able to negate more things. He starts with the tanky and grabs the Thoroughblade. But at this point, having the simple board that we do have, even if he does have access to another Zeus right now, still feeling pretty confident that we can essentially deal with it for the most part, which I'm not actually sure at this point if he still had any more Zeuses. And yeah, if he did have any more Zeus, he doesn't have the extra, Xyz fodder in his extra deck to be able to get multiple materials underneath it. So the secret here actually, surprisingly, ends up being enough this time. And then he goes ahead and burns a Monster Reborn and tries to resolve a Halqifibrax here, surprisingly, and, there's nothing he can do there because it's negated, and we head into Game 3. So as you can see, he did make me go first, and I did not have the best opening field. Hindsight, I probably shouldn't have set both the book and the Imperm. I should have probably held the Imperm in my hand. I do draw the Raigeki here, which is a potential card that I could set, but if I did set that Raigeki and summon the blue, then just, there goes Zeus. It's going to fire off, and we're going to lose our whole field. So I figured I might as well just fire off the Raigeki right now and make him burn more resources. He goes into the battle phase, hits us for a decent amount of damage, and main phase 2, lo and behold, another Zeus comes out with 4 materials underneath, and I just cannot draw into any other cards. Alright, so tournament's over, and I kind of want to just give my final thoughts on how everything went. First of all, the experience. The experience was great. It was actually really fun to just be like, goofing around with all my friends from locals in the Discord. It was a completely new experience, kind of refreshing, I guess. It sucks to have such a bitter end for Mekk Knights. There's two things. There's sort of like my performance, and then Mekk Knight's just performance as a whole, like what the deck is capable of doing this in this format. I feel like my play was, I don't think it was definitely great. I remember there were being a few instances where I made maybe like an over conservative play or just underwhelming plays that maybe could have been made better. One being like messing up with droplets right in the very first play of the very first match. Maybe making some errors in the round 2 matchup when that skill drain was up with that Dragoon. But again, we did get blown out by Lance there. We did get blown out by Harpy's Feather Duster round 2. and then getting blown out again by Zeus in the final round, and just having a bad hand. Like, I think that was one of the worst hands we drew the entire tournament. I just feel like Mekk Knight as a whole is not really the best deck this format. I don't think the deck is bad, like, on paper. In a nutshell, I think it actually is a decent strategy. Right now, it's just very rough, like, needing to blind second against a lot of decks, and, you know, a lot of the player base already knows how to get around that Mekk Knight gimmick of the whole 2 columns thing. They're going to make you go first, and that happened to us several times, or times where I thought I was going to go first, and I decided to go first, but they actually made us go second, so that made our deck way weaker. Those mind games are just there because the deck it's so lopsided. And all the times I think that we had to go first, I don't think we opened Girsu a single time, because again, you have to hard draw the Girsu if you want to get full value from it, and setting back row hurts as well, especially in a format where Lightning Storm and Duster are legal. You know, we got Dustered twice, I think, or we got Dustered once, maybe twice, but then I think we also got hit with a Lightning Storm too in that last round. So, like, tons of problems with Mekk Knights right now. Very fragile, and going second right now, you have to load the deck up with all sorts of hand traps or all sorts of going second cards, whatever combination of Dark Ruler tactics and droplets you want to do. Like, you're just going to have those inconsistencies on top of an already inconsistent deck. But again, I think our list was solid. I think it did all that it could do. Just, you know, apart from us getting bad luck. But the things that did work well, the maining the Raigeki and the Duster as opposed to maining the double Lightning Storm. Really happy with that decision. Raigeki pretty much won us our round 3 match, and I think it's just much more versatile card than Lightning Storm to begin with, especially if you were going to play the Harpy's Feather Duster in there as well. Like, just playing those 2 cards together instead of the 2 Lightning Storm just made a lot of sense to me, and I think it's something I'll just do going forward in Mekk Knight or maybe whatever the other deck I play. But the MVP, I think, goes to Book of Moon. Book of Moon is fantastic. I almost kind of wish maybe I played 3 Book of Moon tonight. The hand trap lineup, the Nibiru Imperm. The only other thing that maybe I wish I would have done is maybe played 3 Nibiru, but that's really about it. And maybe 2 Imperm, just kind of like swap those ratios, because I think Nibiru is just a really good hand trap right now. Imperm was just Imperm. Droplets, neither here nor there. I don't think I really would have preferred having Dark Ruler so much more, because, like, we were playing Book of Moon, and I just kind of like how both Book of Moon and Droplet can kind of have value if you do need to go first, because they are quick plays, whereas Dark Ruler and Talents, you can't use them in that fashion, because they're obviously normal spells. It fits, you know, with the aspect of trying to go second, but I just like thinking more outside of, like, how's it going to work in those less optimal situations where we have to go first and we need to kind of use them as trap cards, and they just fit that narrative better because, you know, they're quick plays. But those cards performed very well. Book of Moon kind of overperformed in my opinion. Nibiru, I think we only resolved Nibiru in the last round, and it came in super clutch to get rid of that potential Mega Clops play, so that was great. But yeah, that's really all I have to say, I think. Now we're going to go ahead and just do one final overview of what our grand record was with Mekk Knights, and I think is definitely the worst out of all the decks we played so far. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Alright, so as you guys can see, our final record this month with Mekk Knight was not an impressive one. This is our first time having a negative record across this entire series so far. 11 wins and 13 match losses, winning against Necroz Dogmatica, Madolche Dogmatica, 2 Eldlik Dogmaticas, 1 Altergeist, 2 bouts of Anti-Meta, 1 Cyber Dragon, 1 Invoke Dogmatica, 1 Hero, and 1 Buster Blader deck. Surprising, we did actually get to beat 1. And then our losses were, to no surprise, 1 Dinosaur, 3 Buster Bladers, 3 Invoke Dogmaticas, Salamangreat, 3 Prank Kids. That number really piled up here in the last week. 1 Virtual World and 1 Pure Zodiac, because let's be honest, Zeus is a pretty good card. But, you know, the same trend sticking around here this month, Invoke Dogmatica still being an extremely problematic deck to deal with. But yeah, overall, like I've said already, I just don't think this is really a great format for Mekk Knight. Mekk Knight still has a lot of problems that need to be solved in terms of maybe new support or just help on the ban list. The deck still is okay. Like I said, I think the deck we played in the last week was our strongest list yet. And I'm very happy to say that, but then again, there's only so much we can do in the circumstances that we had. And I feel like if it were a different format, maybe things would have played out a bit differently. So yeah, that's it for Mekk Knight. I don't know if I've said this in the past, but we will potentially revisit decks in this series. So maybe at some point in the future, we'll have better luck with Mekk Knight. This is also the point in the video where I'd announce to you guys what deck we're doing next. But with locals being on hold for the time being, I'm going to save that for a separate video, really talking about what deck I am going to be choosing personally to play as my main deck, that I'll play, beyond the lengths of just 1 month. So, I feel like a lot of you guys will like this choice. It's kind of spicy. I've been testing it on my stream a little bit, and I think it does have some great synergy with some newer cards that have been released in Phantom Rage. And it's a longtime favorite of mine. Played it way back in 2016, I think. So I might make a separate video explaining about why I'm choosing this deck to be sort of my main competitive focus, and why I chose and everything. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Please consider subscribing. We're on our way to 20,000 subscribers. I plan to do some pretty nice giveaways once we hit 20K, so feel free to subscribe if you want, and also check out the ways to support the channel down in the description below. And as always, Winterkill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And of course, last but not least, a special shout out goes to our Divine Level channel members here on YouTube, Academic Thick, Zors, and Cadillacs84. As always, thank you guys so much for your generous and continued support of the channel.